Afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2026 at 3 p.m. I don't know why I read that part. The beeping. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Yep.
All right. All right, so I want to call everyone to order. And my goodness, it's been a while since we've been together, so I've forgotten how to do this. Okay. I'm going to do the roll call. All right. For air, I'm here. Robert Pomprian is here. Rachel Friedlander is here. Harvard, Susan Mary.
I'm here. Victor is expected, but
Okay. And Dawn, is she? Do we know if she's coming?
I don't know if Dawn is going to be here.
Okay. Brian Sawyer for Shirley. Okay.
Yep.
Logan Breeze, Shirley.
Here.
And Brian Hildebrand, not present. Okay. For the Devens group, we have John Cater.
Here.
There you are. Jim Geller, I saw in the audience. Odile Smith, not here. There's Victor. Kristen Cullen, I don't see her. Oh, wait a minute. Am I missing? Okay, nope. And Ryan McDevitt, I see you.
Yep.
Okay, great. For the deck, we have Neil Angus.
Here.
And William Marshall.
Here.
And for Mass Development, we have Mr. Michael Sweeney, which we will get into in a few minutes. All right, thank you very much. All right, so first up, we have the approval of the meeting minutes from 14 January 2026.
I have one correction.
Okay,
Unless I was totally off base, it says the meeting was called to order at 2 p.m. I think we met at 3 p.m.
I do
Did we
think we
not?
met at 3 p.m.
Meet at 3 p.m., so we will make that change, typo, yep.
Yep, they looked fine to me.
Okay.
All right, so just before we get up to shareholder update, I just want to say that we do have a couple of people who need to depart us a little bit early today, or have a hard stop at 4. So let's try to stay on point as best as possible. That's just simply a request. Neil, I know you have to leave a little early.
I do, thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have a motion and second for
Thank
the
you.
minutes?
We did not,
Okay.
because we edited. I'm like, everybody's like, I gotta go, and I lost it. Okay.
Move to approve the minutes of January 14th as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, and the chair says aye, those meeting minutes are approved. Thank you very much, Nina. All right, then let me take a breath and slow down a second. Okay, so we're gonna have shareholder update. For the town of Air, what date was it it was Friday, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 Fridays ago, Ray put together a tour and had the leadership of Mass Development here, where we did a tour of the future site of the Air Senior Center, which will cause the fence, the gate over on McPherson Bishop Road to have to be moved in the future. We also did a tour on West Main Street near Shop and Save as to the future site of affordable housing. We also went over to the now defunct hospital where Chief Johnson kind of gave them an update as to what was going on. We then went over, am I missing one? No, then from there we went over to Catania Oil. And we had a nice tour of the building. Really impressive place there. And a couple weeks prior to that, she had us some of us in Air have a tour of Nasoya, the tofu plant, which was really, really so cool. And it's the largest tofu plant in the U.S. Right here in Air. So that's quite nice. So it was great. This was, great having Mass Development there, kind of do a meet and greet and everything. And I had a brief conversation of, could you please come back? So I'm pleased to see that Mr. Michael Sweeney, who is the new deputy director, I hope I said your title right. I think I messed it up because I didn't write it down. My apologies. He'll introduce himself.
Good.
And he'll give us, any update if he has any. This is his first meeting with us, and I don't think he's going to be able to stay the whole hour. And so he might be in a little bit more of an observant role. So, don't hit him with everything. But we are extremely pleased to have him here. So, Robert, do you have anything to add?
We covered our air update. I don't know if Ray has anything.
Nope.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Harvard.
Turn it over to Vic.
Sure. The Harvard Devens Committee has met several times since our last meeting. I think we're still processing the public meeting that we had on Devens, so nothing significant to report to this committee at this time.
Okay. All right then. Shirley?
We do not have any significant updates.
Okay. Devens, residents.
Sure, thank you. I'll be cognizant of your need to leave early in Michael Sweeney's time. But the constituents of Devens did want me to communicate a few things. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, fellow DGFC members and attendees. As you know, I'm John Catter, the Devens residents representative. A few updates from Devens to share. We've been pleased at the increased attendance at community meetings dealing with topics affecting residents, including disposition, housing on Devens, taxation, and most recently, education. Strong attendance and participation are a good sign that a community is interested and engaged. Recent elections for both the Devens Committee and the Devens Educational Advisory Committee have resulted in the addition of a considerable number of new residents raising their hands to volunteer to ensure their neighborhoods and neighbors are heard and their concerns are addressed. We do anticipate a significant increase in population over the next few years, given the lifting of the housing cap and the housing RFP responses that are currently being evaluated for new construction. We look forward to welcoming new families from every walk of life to the community we call Devens. It is critical that we incorporate the wishes of future residents into any planning we do on the future of Devens. Over the past year, as you know, Devens residents participated in developing and discussing the 19 matrix topics if Devens were to become a town, which was our assigned task and one of the 4 identified options. At the last DGFC meeting, we agreed to discuss common ground on 3 of those topics at today's meeting. Since that time, much has transpired that has caused numerous residents to question the value of this exercise. Among them is the persistent call for the acceleration of a decision on disposition. Additionally, the laser-like focus by some parties on the goal of resuming local jurisdiction versus the 4 possible scenarios agreed to by this committee is extremely concerning and not aligned. These continued divergent issues have made our participation in this exercise no longer appropriate. We are committed to participating in this committee's work as it was identified in the formation of this DGFC and hope these issues will come into greater focus for resolution in the near term. Madam Chairperson, I'll put this out there and we can push the timing if you want to. Based on this, I would like to make a motion that the DGFC discontinue any further discussion regarding accelerated jurisdiction or sole focus on the town's resuming local jurisdiction until the consultant is hired to begin the Chapter 498 study and all DGFC members are aligned to proceed together.
I'm going to second the motion so that we can discuss it. So it's been seconded and now it's open for discussion.
Could you please reread the motion?
Sure. I would like to make a motion that the DGFC discontinue any further discussion regarding accelerated jurisdiction or sole focus on the town's resuming local jurisdiction until the consultant is hired to begin the Chapter 498 study and all DGFC members are aligned to proceed together.
You're going to send us a copy of
I will.
that written motion, thank you. Okay. All right, so does anybody have any comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I might propose, I know the motion has been made and seconded, is on the table, and where there are some time constraints, and we're in the shareholder update, if there was an objection, maybe just finish with the last of the shareholder updates, and then we could take that up if the gentleman is okay with that.
Sure. Okay, then that's what we'll do. Okay. So you're done for the moment. Okay. So we're going to move to the deck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We too had the pleasure of meeting Michael Sweeney as well. He came to our last deck meeting, evening meeting, and gave a little overview of his his experience and his role with mass development. So we were greatly appreciative of Michael taking the time to come and meet our commissioners and the general public in Devens. A couple other items that I wanted to just bring to everyone's attention. We have an upcoming Earth Day Open Streets event. This is our 5th annual one where we close down McPherson and Bishop Road and allow people to walk, bike, roll, and enjoy that beautiful corridor along the Nashua River without speeding cars flying by. This is in partnership with the town of Air and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge folks. So just wanted to mention that to folks, and I'll leave a few Earth Day flyers here for anyone who would like to take them. Anyone who needs any more information, feel free to contact myself or my environmental planner, Beth Sudmeyer. And also, we have an upcoming Devens Farmers Market again. This is our 7th or 8th year doing this market, partnering with Dick's Market Garden in Lunenburg. So bringing local fresh produce to the Devens region. Markets are starting in June and will run through October every other week. So I've got some flyers here as well for that too to leave with folks, anyone who's interested. All this is posted on our website as well too, but these are new events, so I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of them. Also, we are still working with the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program in Massachusetts. We received a grant last year to continue our climate change and resiliency work. This is MVP 2.0 process, which is community engagement on reaching out to more folks in Devens and the surrounding region on equity and making sure that we have services and availability, and that we hear from the folks that are the more vulnerable populations. So it's a big engagement process that we're undertaking and starting right now. So we'll be reaching out to a number of residents, regional organizations, and businesses to learn more about what their social concerns are for the region and how we can help, in the face of a changing climate. So we have a survey currently open and would invite everybody and anybody who's interested to take a look and respond. We want to hear from everybody to get their feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Post them in the Harvard Town Hall.
All right.
And I can email them to folks too.
And now,
PDFs.
next up, I would like to introduce to everyone who is going to give us a little bit better of an introduction since I messed up his title, Mr. Michael Sweeney from Mass Development.
PDFs of them so you can share them.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got you.
Thank you. How would you like me to proceed? Would you like me to give a little bit of my background or?
Whatever you want to do. We're just happy to have you here.
Great, thank you. First of all, I appreciate the invite to come to the meeting, and as the chairwoman said, mostly today I'm here to introduce myself, let you know that I'm here, and to observe for a little while. As Neil mentioned, I have had the opportunity to start meeting with some individuals and some of the other agencies and groups. We had a great tour of Air very recently, and that was really great to get my feet on the ground there and to see some of the dynamic projects that they've got underway and the vitality of the downtown there. And I'm looking forward to doing similar outreach and tours with some of the other communities immediately adjacent to us, obviously. By way of background, my educational training is as an attorney. I had a small law practice for a number of years as a small business. I've also served in government for a fairly extensive period of time. I have a background as both an elected official at the city level and also as a school committee member, so I have a lot of familiarity with the pains and challenges that cities and towns face, both on the school side and the municipality side, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Those challenges varied, often have a great deal of urgency and usually cost a lot of money. So we're all through the years always trying to figure out ways of dealing with all of those and addressing it and serving the public and the taxpayer as best we can. I've been an attorney at the Office of the State Treasurers for a number of years, including being their Deputy General Counsel. And I worked on everything from issues related to the State Retirement Board, including either prosecuting hearings or serving as the hearing officer on cases where individuals violated serious matters related to retirement law, such as potentially committed criminal acts in the course of their official duties and things of that nature. But I've also served on small business committees for the State Treasurer's Office and dealt with a wide range of legal matters, including being their liaison to the Attorney General's office and working on some class action matters that the Attorney General's office represented the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on, that the State Treasurer's office was also involved with. At some point, I was asked to go down to the Massachusetts State Lottery, which comes under the umbrella of the State Treasurer's office, as the interim director. And after about 6 months in that role, they asked me to become the executive director at the Massachusetts State Lottery, which I served in that role for 7 years. We did a number of major projects, including switching out all the machinery that some of you may be familiar with at the over 7,500 retail businesses that we interact with across the Commonwealth. I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with what used to be very large, old, big blue machines that used to sit on the counters probably next to the cash register at most convenience stores. All of those were replaced during my time. They long since outused their usefulness, and also had technological limitations. They were really from the 1980s at the time. And we also built out a brand new, transferred to a brand new data center. And also we built out a brand new backup data center. Technology behind any state lottery is extremely complicated, as I'm sure you can imagine. And it has to be right 100% of the time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We also moved the lottery headquarters for the first time in 20 years, over 20 years, as well as a couple of regional offices. And I sort of changed the character and structure of those offices to be much more public friendly and receptive to the public than they had been previously. And we were fortunate we were able to do all those projects on time, on budget, and without missing any operating time, which is critically important because, again, that's revenue that's produced that goes back to all the cities and towns, such as the ones that you represent, each year as part of the fiscal management of the Commonwealth. As part of my duties there, I was actually recruited by, I guess what I would call a mid-sized law firm in Worcester. They knew that they were probably going to be in the process of moving their headquarters for the first time in about 20 years, and also a regional office, and they were also doing some technology upgrades. And they asked me to come over for that time period to work on those projects, which we did. We did end up moving the headquarters, and by building a very unified team, we had the same level of success. We were able to move the headquarters without missing a full day of business operations. We closed on a Friday afternoon, and we were able to complete the move and have the law firm up and running again on Monday morning, including computer and phone systems. And we were also able to accomplish the same thing with one of their regional offices that were also located in Central Mass. From there, most recently, I was recruited to take over a nonprofit in Boston that originally, many decades ago, had originally been created to help people who were age 50 or over to either stay in or reintegrate back into the workforce, particularly around training and development, and getting up to speed on technology issues. And through the years, that mission actually was expanded to essentially include any adult over the age of 18 who needed to reintegrate into the workforce and who met certain financial requirements or economic conditions. And that was a great position. And, unfortunately, I would say when I arrived there, probably about 85 or 90% of their funding came from the federal government. And as maybe many of you are aware, there's been sort of a change in philosophy at the federal government recently, and that funding was no longer available. I'll put it that way. So unfortunately, that nonprofit had to begin the process of winding itself down, as did numerous other nonprofits across the country that were working on similar issues, literally from California to Texas to Georgia to Massachusetts and Maine. So it had a very widespread economic impact at the time. Which eventually led me to the position here at Devens. When I saw the job description, quite honestly, it really seemed to match up with a lot of my professional background as well as my professional interests, which again, as you may have gathered, range everywhere from private business to nonprofits and certainly to the government side, as well as the issues of emerging technology and housing and development. I failed to mention, and that just reminded me, I did serve for 4 years as the planning director for the city of Lawrence. And so in some ways similar to Neil, I had all the usual boards that all of you are familiar with in your own cities and towns, came under my domain, if you will. Everything from the planning board to zoning board, environmental board, historic board. And we had a really good team, and Lawrence, which is also where I grew up, has its own unique challenges and can be a very difficult environment for a number of reasons. And we were able to do a lot of changes that were very productive, both on a housing front, general infrastructure, and also business development during the time that I was there, which unfortunately also coincided with the great financial recession around that 2008, 2010 time period. But despite that, we were still able to make a lot of progress, particularly around issues concerning vacant lots that the city owned, and still being able to keep and or draw in new businesses into the mills that we had plenty of square footage space in the city of Lawrence. So that's kind of a semi-quick snapshot of my background. I've been here at Devens now just about a month, actually, almost a month. And as Janice and Neil and I mentioned earlier, getting my feet wet, trying to absorb as much information as possible, and at least trying to do a surface level touch of the various boards and groups and advisory committees that are working in conjunction with issues related to Devens and mass development. And thus my appearance today. I'm certainly looking forward to meeting all of you individually, but also coming back to your future meetings and hoping to be able to add more productivity from what I can bring to the table than perhaps what I can do today. So that's kind of my take anyways.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Neil, do you have to go or?
I do.
Okay. Do you have are you on the housing working group? I was
part of it.
That.
Yes.
Okay.
You're looking for an update on
Yeah.
the housing?
I don't know if you have time to give someone or.
I don't know if Michael has any updates from the mass development side of
Yeah.
things, but
Do you happen to have a housing update from the working group, Michael?
I don't know if it's directly on point or not. I know the main housing thing that I've been recently pulled into, which I think all of you, this may already be old news or not, but I'll share what I know. There were RFPs issued for housing development Grant Road and Adams Circle. We did receive what would appear to be robust and qualified responses for both of those RFPs. And I know that the internal team here at Mass Development is now in the process of reviewing those to try to make determinations as to which ones should be further pursued for additional discussions. So I would estimate that process is maybe 25 to 50% of the way through its process mechanism, depending on your point of view as to when the start line was. But again, they did receive responses on both areas. At face value, it appeared that many of them were very on point and well qualified, and that the team has begun the process of actively reviewing each of them and is moving forward in the process of, I assume the next step would be to narrow down the numbers of the responses and engage each submission holder with probably additional questions related to whatever package they submitted.
All right, thank you. Yes.
So that was, additional updates on the housing situation in Devens in terms of the working group and the 4 recommendations from that working group report. Mass Development is still currently finalizing the existing conditions plans for Vicksburg Square and the existing buildings, BOQs. They're still finalizing that. They are still finalizing the parking analysis as well. And they have, I think I've mentioned this before, but they've hired a consultant to assist with the community engagement piece, which was another recommendation prior to, or the lead up to Supertown meeting for any potential zone change for Vicksburg Square or the ITC district. And the last piece is the regional school needs assessment, which Robert may have an update on.
Yes, Madam Chair, just briefly, we are finally getting the band back together. One of the delays in dealing with the schools, not entirely, but the budget season and so forth. So we are going to be meeting. We have representatives from all of the stakeholders, including the superintendents. And our target is that when this group reconvenes on July 8th, we should at least have some preliminary information.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right then, so we will go on to the next one.
I don't have to run.
Yeah, we've got your stuff in the packet, so
Okay.
we'll pursue it.
Great.
Okay.
I'm assuming Bill Marshall will be able to speak.
Bill Marshall is still here, and I will call in where I can. And
Okay.
participate where I can. Sorry to have to leave early.
Nope, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
All right, so next up for the old business, we have the matrix updates. We had all decided that we would, kind of do a comparison of the administration, open space, and social services. Within the packet, you'll see that there was a submission from the DEC and a submission from the town of Air. So I'm not sure what went wrong with Harvard and Shirley as to why we didn't have a submission. So the first question I'm going to ask is this working? I know for the Devens residents, it's a whole different scenario because they don't necessarily have, similarities and whatnot. So is this something, a good benchmark to be working on?
You're gonna have to speak to
Sure.
Harvard.
Through the chair, I think, yes, it is. And apologies to the town of Harvard. I did not clearly understand the assignment. I wasn't sure. It didn't register to me that we ought to be submitting something in writing. And we did discuss the 3 items at our meetings. and I have a few comments to make during this meeting as we discuss them. And in the future, if we continue to do this, we will have a written submission every
Okay.
month, every meeting.
So yeah, so I think for right now, I mean, I don't even know really what to discuss as far as on, you know, we'll go through like what Air submitted. What am I using now? I can use this. Just to kind of give you an idea as to what we come up with, and then we can figure out, you know, is that the way we want to do it? We'll go through Air first, not the decks. Is this the right way to do it? What's working, what's not working? Okay, so what we did in the town of Air is we found the similarities, common ground, and differences between all the entities. Okay, so obviously, you know, we're not going to have any change administration wise as far as what we had originally wrote, because we're just going to continue the same administration we have. Okay. Now, one of the things, and we've kind of touched on it, you know, in a select board meeting, as far as, you know, creating expedited permitting and everything, and we're still looking into that for the town of Air, because we do think that that's a great thing that the deck does. So, you know, that is something that we're looking into, seeing if we can do. Okay. Surely, from what we could see, you know, maybe you'd have to hire more staff. You know, and Harvard, the same thing. You know, there might not be any administrative office, but you might have to hire an assistant town administrator, because I know you were with it, and now you're like the temp, and so, you know, so, but there gotta be two of you. So we'll just go with the two of you. Now, in regards to Devens, obviously, you know, their desire is to be a new town. And so we've kind of listed out some of the things that, you know, they would have to do as far as, you know, making agreements with other towns and things like that. Pretty much the same thing under open space and recreation, and what was the other one? Social services. We all kind of partner with each other. Devens already has some agreements, you know, within Devens, within Air, or, you know, even Harbor, everything. We all kind of, you know, have some MOAs and whatnot. And I suspect that for some of those things, regardless of what happens, some of that'll still exist, because it's the best way to pool resources. Okay. So it's kind of, I mean, I've summed up ours, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the deck, it pretty much would be kind of, obviously, like for the, what the deck has written is administration, areas of agreement, would be need for a detailed transition plan, which I think we all can agree would have to happen. Okay. And while not consistent in all scenario responses in each scenario, we have all discussed the importance of maintaining a unified permitting agency, which I think we all agree is a great thing. And I don't think that should ever be lost, you know. Administration-wise, there would have to be a form of government, some fundings, you know, continuing with some of the maintaining and managing existing open space areas and recreational fields, ownership transfer of open space depending on, you know, what the decision is done. So I don't know if Bill wants to add on to anything.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. So is this what we were looking for?
Janice,
Yes.
sorry, I was able to join remotely, so just you know, budget impacts was a common challenge that I think everybody identified for, you know, open space and recreation, administration, and social services as well too.
Okay. All right. So I guess my next question is this what we're talking about as far as, doing a deeper dive into each of the matrix questions?
Well, I'm the one who suggested it. I
Right,
think.
so-
So it does, I think it's great. It's bringing about the areas where there is common ground and the areas where there would need to be things worked through. So I think it's useful,
Okay,
depending on the direction that we take as of today's discussion, so.
right, okay. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Yeah, I think that it is a beneficial exercise, and I would propose at this point, in preparation for the July 8th meeting, that we all look at 3 more, the education, police, and fire, which is on the agenda. And respectfully, folks that didn't submit something in writing, if they would consider that for those 3 and maybe these previous 3, and that would be helpful. And then on the 8th, we'll have a total of 6 sets, 6 matrix items to look at similarities.
so I just want to point out too that, if you happen to get done your submission and you want to send it to me early, that's okay. I'll just save it, that way that's one less thing off your plate, okay? All right, so any other questions on this?
Madam Chair, I just have one additional comment.
Yes.
In reviewing this, I did find it a useful exercise. I did find it difficult to find a lot of common ground between each of the scenarios because they are so different.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, there was certain areas of common interest and common challenges as well. But I think as we go forward with this, as it sounds like we're choosing to go forward with it, in reviewing and comparing these scenarios, I think it's important for people to really look at the regional structure and the regional nature of Devens. In any development scenario, I don't think that should go away. The regional development of Devens has been key to its successful development. So I think, we need to take a broader look and not just, it's going to revert back to a community and we're going to be in our own silo and we're going to deal with it. I think that regional nature needs to, be melded throughout the reviews. It's also important to consider the unique structure of Devens. We are, the opposite of a lot of communities where we're like 95% industrial commercial and 5% residential, roughly. So that unique makeup of Devens is something that needs to be considered as we move forward as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I agree. I thank you. Thank you for that, for those points. Anyone have any questions? Okay. All right then, so we're going to put this one to bed. So we'll go back to the new business, and we had a motion on the table. Okay, so
Madam Chair?
yes.
Would the gentleman mind just restating the motion that has been made and seconded?
The motion that the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee discontinue any future discussion regarding accelerated jurisdiction or sole focus on the town's resuming local jurisdiction until the consultant is hired to begin the Chapter 498 study and all DGFC members are aligned to proceed together.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
John, seeing that the motion is coming from you or your constituency, would you be willing to offer a little background
Sure.
on that?
So the two concerns. One is that a hyper focus on resumption of town boundaries by the towns, to the exclusion of the 3 options we all agreed to. It's just the chatter is that we're not going to talk about Devens becoming a town. That there's a real focus on resuming town boundaries, as opposed to, and understandable, as opposed to dealing with the 4 options that we discussed and agreed to when we submitted the RFEI. In no order: resumption of town boundaries, a hybrid, status quo, or Devens becomes a town. All 4 of those, and the residents feel that over the course of the last year, they've been slowly chipped away. And the second is the acceleration, as we can see from one of the topics here, the acceleration of a discussion on jurisdiction. Or not a discussion, but a decision on jurisdiction, right? Obviously, we can discuss jurisdiction and all of this, that's what we're doing right now. But the concern is a real effort to accelerate jurisdiction to the exclusion of what the Devens residents were thinking about. Now, the towns can do whatever they want. You want to petition your legislators? Do it. But as the charter is written for the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee, it's inappropriate for it to be talking here about accelerating jurisdiction. That's what the residents do. Does that add some clarity?
I appreciate that.
Yes.
So, John, so related to that, I think that the issue, we've all worked so well together, and Harvard, and perhaps Victor, you can correct me, many of us read the Harvard Press beyond the town of Harvard. Mm-hmm. And there was a recent article that indicated that the issue of Devens being its own town in status quo was off the table. Now, I don't know if that was in the context of your Harvard group, but I think we can respectfully agree, unless I missed a meeting, and I did miss one a while ago, that the Devens, this framework committee has taken no position on any of those options. And there may be others, for that study. So I don't know if there's a misunderstanding there or something that was reported that concerns your folks. But I don't see, speaking from my point, I don't remember at any time that we've taken an official position, nor should we at this time, to rule out any option, because we haven't gotten to that point yet. But I know that was reported, Victor, from Harvard. Does Harvard have a different opinion on that?
No, through the chair,
Yeah.
I think that may have been mentioned at a Harvard Devens meeting, or it may have been mentioned somewhere in town, but it's not the official position of the Harvard Devens Committee or the town of Harvard. So we can't control how someone may respond to a question, but that's not the official position of the town of Harvard or the Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee.
If I may, we observe your meetings and we listen to your meetings, and we have a contrary opinion.
So, speaking just as one of the three representatives from AIR, and a lifelong member of this group, definition of lifelong to be determined, but it has never been, and I think Janice and Ray would agree with me, and they don't, the town of AIR has everything on the table, all of the options, just to stress that. And I think it's important for you to convey that to your constituency. We've always viewed this as a collaborative approach. We have no preconceived notion or decision yet, because the work has yet to happen, meaning the analysis and the study, and it should be done by a third-party entity. There's no question that everybody, myself included, may have opinions and so forth, but that process needs to happen. So I just want to stress publicly to your folks, speaking as one of the AIR representatives, that it's not AIR's position, the reps here or the town of AIR, Selectman Livingston is the chair of the select board as well in AIR. Our position, we have not come to any decision on status quo, town, disposition, or so forth at this point, because we need to do that study. The second issue, if I may, through the chair, that came up is this issue of accelerating the timeline. I think that's also coming from Harvard as well. And we have not discussed that, to my knowledge, in depth at the framework committee level to accelerate the timeline. So I have, I'll let others speak, I have some fundamental concerns on the idea of acceleration. And in fact, I don't support accelerating it. And the reason being is that this is a long process, and it's the hallmark quoted to democracy often, it's a long, painful, times messy process. That being said, though it's been since 2019, a tribute to everybody around this table, and everybody has stuck with it, including through a pandemic. So yes, it's been 7 years, and many will say it's moving too slow, we're not making any progress, mass development hasn't been at the table, but we continue in a collaborative framework in the spirit to move forward. To accelerate that, as I understand it, that has been proposed, would require a legislative amendment to change the dates of Chapter 498. So the first question is, you'd have to convince, and I'm not going to speak for them, our legislative delegation, which is 3 members of, there's 140 reps and 40 senators, so 180 people. And even if we extended it regionally to, say, the 17 towns of the Neshoba Valley, is just a fraction of the legislature. We'd have to get them to propose, assuming they would, an amendment. That amendment would have to go through the legislative process. If you want to talk about long, painful, and convoluted, it would have to pass the House, it would have to pass the Senate, and the governor, and this governor will most likely be reelected, would have to sign it. And her board is, the Mass Development Board is appointed by the governor. I think that the odds of this happening, very slim. I also am concerned of what that would create in terms of relations moving forward on all levels, and what do we gain by acceleration when we have yet to actually have the consultant and the study. So I appreciate everybody hearing that. I know it was a little long there, but I would not be in support of acceleration, and I would not be in support of taking anything off the table unless this body deliberates it and decides otherwise. Madam Chair, thank you.
Anybody else? Brian?
Speaking for Shirley, I can also attest that, Shirley does not have any preference for disposition. I can tell you one of the biggest challenges that we've had is Shirley is a little bit different, from all the stakeholders, but specifically from the other 2 towns of, we don't have as much, land. Of the land that we would have, it either isn't developed or, the possibility of being developed, whether it be, residential or commercial to any extent, compared to the other 2 towns. And I've had a significant challenge of getting any interest and even creating our own kind of subcommittee, and therefore I've had almost no specific feedback, whether it be anything in depth from select board members, from committee members, from staff or residents. I've also been on this committee since its inception, and I even personally don't have a preference at this point for disposition. So I feel like we're going through the motions, and part of the assignments, if they were with the exception of this most recent, which I apologize, I will update in writing, not only for the next time, but the 3 items that I missed for the matrix updates. But part of the assignment was from the perspective of Shirley, if we were to reassume the jurisdiction, and that's why we're going through that on our end. It's not that that's our preference. So I just wanted to share that with you and your constituents. And
Yes.
If I may, through the chair, John, when you talk about we shouldn't accelerate the process of disposition until the consultants are hired, are you referring to the 2030 date that Mass Development has indicated that they don't think they need to start planning future government until 2030? So is that
So
that you're focused on?
We want to adhere to the timeline in Chapter 498, which was the study is to begin no later than July of 2030, and to be completed no later than 2033, but I think July of that same year. Don't quote me on those dates.
Yeah.
But we are not opposed to planning and having discussions, because that's what we did the RFEI,
Sure.
right? So this committee is well within the charter to have that discussion.
So what do you object to then?
The any discussion of accelerated jurisdiction in this committee, anything other than discussing all four options for disposition. That's basically it. And so it sounds like this, unless I heard it wrong, that this should fly through this. It will go a long way with the Devens residents if this passes, meaning that you heard them and that there is no intent. As I said before, every citizen has the right to petition their legislators. Everyone. Never say you can't do that. However, the charter of this committee is to, as we see it, adhere to Chapter 498 and the acceleration of jurisdiction is not to the benefit of anyone on Devens, and that's what the constituency has already told me. And whether they misinterpreted the article on Harvard doing an end run on master development, that's your business, right? However, the motion is put forth by my committee.
It's still not clear to me, John. I think if the position of the Devens residents is more focused on the 2033 date, that they don't want that date accelerated, then it's clear to me. That's a clear position. I understand that. But this committee was originally conceived and has been working towards planning for future government. Mass Development has originally participated in that effort, but then said, no, we're suspending our involvement in planning until 2030. And this committee has ignored that. We've kept the whole 19 elements of the matrix are all designed to begin or to fill the planning process. So we just got done saying we're going to continue with that. We decided to continue to work with the 19 elements. But what I'm hearing from the Devens residents is if that in any way relates to planning for future government, you shouldn't be doing it. And it's inconsistent. I'm not.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, at one point, it had been discussed of like, instead of the 2030 date, can we move it back 2 years to like a 2028 date?
For what matter?
No, I'm saying that, remember like a year or so ago, we were like, hey, it was discussed, and like, hey, did we want to try to change the date so that we could, submit a report to the state earlier? And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's what the Devens residents are saying. Let's not try to move dates.
That's not clear from John's motion. I'm sorry, John, but if the Devens resident said 2030 is on or before, that's a movable date, and we've taken that to mean we should start now to do the planning. The 2033 date, July 1st, 2033, is a hard stop. It is a firm date. The legislation that enables mass development and the DEC to act as interim government expires on that date. And as Robert has said, it would require an act of the legislature and approval of the governor to extend that date. No one's talking about that. Now, what the Devens residents may be concerned about is a decision on permanent government made before 2033, not intending to go into effect on 2033. We've never gone there. No one is suggesting that we make a decision that affects the actual termination date of mass development's role. I mean, that, I think realistically speaking, I think that 2033 may be the date at which a plan is approved for permanent government. And I can see mass development's role extending beyond that as the redevelopment authority to finish the work of the reuse plan that's not been completed. So I think mass development could be here after 2033, but only basically at the behest of whatever government structure takes over Devens. They would act as a redevelopment authority as other redevelopment authorities act in other municipalities. They don't run the town, but they do their work within the town. So John, I think no one, including the town of Harvard, has ever suggested that we need to take over Devens before 2033. But we are, in the Harvard Devens Committee, and the work of this committee is focused on gathering information that we need to make that decision. And I think Neil, who was involved in crafting the matrix, has pointed out more than once that this matrix is a valuable piece of information that the consultants will use as they move forward with their work. So I would have a hard, the motion is confusing to me. I mean, if the Devens residents want to be sure that mass development is there until 2033, then that's something I can understand. But the way your motion is written, John, and the charge to each of the stakeholders was to envision that your town or the Devens residents would be the permanent government. That's the focus of how we develop this information for the matrix. So if you're suggesting we stop doing that, then we walk away from the matrix.
I think, Robert, did you have a question?
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you, Victor or to Harvard, let's put the July 1, 2033 piece aside. Do you believe that the deadline of the 2030 should be accelerated? And if so, why?
Because that's what we're doing, Robert. The says that we should begin. The towns should get together with mass development and the DEC and begin the planning process for future government on or before 2030.
Right. And we have
that's plain language as far as I'm
and
concerned.
we have no problem with the planning. It's the
Right.
accelerated the decision on accelerated jurisdiction has to stop. On the discussion in this committee, do what you want to do in Harvard or in Air or in Shirley, right? But it sounds like it's going to be a non-issue. So
Okay, so you're pulling your motion?
Hmm?
Are you pulling your motion?
No,
okay,
not
right,
at all.
that's why I misunderstood
not
what
at
you
all,
just said.
not at all.
Okay. So just to cover the mass development part, they showed up tonight, and he's indicated that, he's gonna start showing up again. So that's good news, okay? He was observing tonight, he's only been on board for a month, but I do anticipate that we will have mass development attending the next meeting in July. So that's good news, okay? So that part hopefully has been put to bed, okay?
Yeah, Madam Chair, it's what, so the date of the accelerated disposition is referring to the 2033 date? Okay.
So are you saying we can't, I'm sorry, I mean.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to reconcile because that's what the Chapter 498 law is.
Right, so I guess I'm kind of confused now too. Are you saying that if the report was ready in 2030, we couldn't submit it?
No.
Okay. I think we're all, it was a very long
Did you say no?
motion, so I think we're all
Yeah.
trying to just figure this out,
I mean, if the report's done sooner,
Yeah.
he says no later than 2030. What our concern is we can edit this, but what my constituent wants out of this is that there's going to be no discussion of accelerated jurisdiction at this committee, one, and we have to consider all four options rather than just one option.
So my understanding, at least, being part of the meetings, was when the only time that it came up regarding accelerated jurisdiction was out of, from my understanding, frustration of when mass development was not, attending meetings,
Right.
contributing. And then I think it was thrown out there, their response continuously was, the law says we're not to start until 2030. And so I think it was thrown out there of, well, if we want to get them back to the table, the way that I interpreted, was perhaps maybe accelerate the process of you know, what if that changes to, you know, a sooner date that they get involved? I never interpreted that on my end of all of a sudden we come to a conclusion faster. Was that, you know, that we would just have them participate with us, which, you know, it's very difficult to do any type of this work without mass development, who's a major key stakeholder.
So, John,
So
what
let's, how about this? So we could say, based on this, I think it's reasonable. Based on this, I would like to make a motion that, I'm not making another motion. This is just,
You're amending your motion?
it could be, I'm discussing if you would
Okay.
be more comfortable if this portion was redacted. Our sole focus, okay, so it would be a motion that the DGFC discontinue any future discussions regarding accelerated jurisdiction or sole focus on the town's resuming local jurisdiction.
So in other words, this committee cannot just look at only the town's resuming jurisdiction. They have to look at the 4 options which we had originally agreed to: hybrid, status quo, resumption of jurisdiction lines to the towns, or Devens becoming its own town. Is that? I just want to make sure that that's what you're saying.
which is what we have been doing.
Right, but I think that what's happened is that there's been some confusion with some comments being made, and it's caused some concern. And I think that that's what he's trying to do, is to, alleviate concerns.
Would it
Yes.
simple? I'm sorry.
So I think it's important to distinguish what Harvard does over at Harvard's side on Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee is independent of how we are operating as members of the Framework Committee.
It should be.
Well, it is, if you look, okay, so the pointing and everything is distracting. So if we could debate the issue, not the people, that would be great. Every action that Harvard representatives have taken at this table have been consistent with pursuing the spirit and the letter of all options are on the table. It is, as Victor said, the design of the matrix was approach this as if you are resuming jurisdiction over your historical boundaries. So that already constrains what Harvard is going to be presenting at the table, because we were asked to look at it from that perspective. The Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee has to look at the work to be presented here from that perspective. So Harvard has been very interested in what would that look like. But in terms of the work that's done around this table and the conversations and the goal of this committee, wholeheartedly agree that all options are on the table. I would see it's almost impossible to accelerate anything at this point, because we're staring at 2030 in the face. I mean, there isn't any way to get it faster at this point, the way we've been going it. So, like when you do a jury selection, voir, whatever it is, that thing. I could have opinions, and I am willing to put them aside as a jury member because I can do that. I have 2 hats on. I have Harvard's hat on and where we're headed, and we may make a complete vote, decision, whatever at Harvard, and I can still come here and say, you know what, in the Framework Committee, I'm operating with all of those 4 things in place with no accelerated timeline. So I don't know where the trust got eroded, but that's how, at least, I'm fairly new here. I think Victor has presented objectionable, non-subjective stuff for us to review. I have no problem with where you're headed, but there's clearly been increased friction between the Devens community and Harvard because of the conversations that we've been having in Harvard, not here.
And through the chair, if I may add, I think the essence of the debate that we've had locally is questioning whether a decision can be arrived at by 2033. That the work that needs to be done to prepare a plan for the resumption of jurisdiction and the process involved legislatively to get that plan approved is going to likely could push us past 2033. That's the discussion we've had. In terms of taking over Devens, that's crazy talk. And no one has, certainly on the committee and anyone who knows anything about Devens, suggested that that's realistic. I don't know, and I guess it would ask the question: what is the fear of the Devens residents? Why are they concerned? Why are Devens residents concerned that I assume it's final disposition. It's going to be accelerated. Why are they concerned about that? Does that somehow place Devens residents at a disadvantage if that were to happen? I mean, if the decision is made to create a town there, let's do it by 2031. I mean, is that a...
Well, the report can't go to the state until this table agrees anyways. And there would have to be, public hearings and everything, getting input. So right now...
I'm not so sure that's true. Excuse me, Madam
Well, that's
Chair.
what it's written. That's what's written. So that's what I'm going to go with right now. That's what's written.
Written.
Everybody knows it's. I'm not doing this. Okay. So we're spinning the wheels, having the same conversation all the time. Okay. Bottom line is, no report goes to the state until we've all worked on it. I think we all know that. Okay. So at this point, you've amended your motion.
Do you want to hear it, or should we, what the amended is going to be, or?
Yeah.
Okay. A motion that the DGFC, Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee, discontinue any future discussions regarding accelerated jurisdiction or sole focus on the town's resuming local jurisdiction.
You took out the part about the consultant. You're taking out the part about that consultant.
If we feel that it accomplishes what the residents are looking for, that we're just done talking about accelerated jurisdiction and we're putting all four elements on the table, I think that's acceptable.
Okay. I'll second the amended motion, just to get it on the table there. Yes.
Through the chair, can I ask, so for this exercise that we're doing where we're assuming possible jurisdiction, is it appropriate that the DJFC still continue with this exercise?
Yeah, I guess. Now, whether our residents want to participate in that, I'll take this back if this passes, and I'll talk to the residents, but there's nothing to preclude you from doing that.
Because I think, too, there's just, I hear everyone saying that we want to keep all the options on the table, but there could be focused time on if jurisdiction were to happen. So as long as, the residents don't feel like we're forgetting that there's the other options on the table, then we can keep going with this exercise, and it would be friendly to all. Okay.
What if you change it to say taking action as a representative of the Devens Jurisdictional Framework Committee rather than thinking about what it would be like if you did that?
I'm open. Help me.
Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
So instead of talking about it, what would happen if you accelerated it, taking an action as a representative of this specific committee, not the committee back at their town. So actually physically making an action to try to accelerate it.
So would it be an additional verbiage into this one?
If you think if anyone thinks it's clearer.
May I make a recommendation?
Sure. I appreciate that.
Okay. So this is a recommendation.
Huh?
We table this motion until, hear me out for a second. Table this motion, let the Devens residents hear what this conversation was, and then we can bring it back in July.
Due respect.
Okay.
Would it?
No,
They've
was
tasked
a
me
recommendation.
with
No, it was
with
a
an issue.
recommendation. That was all.
Madam Chair, we're also representatives of our town, so
True.
it's a little difficult to accept this on behalf of Harvard without my bringing it back to the select board of Harvard and saying, here's what's being proposed. Is this how you would like me to operate? So I'm also a little bit between a rock and a hard place.
Would it simplify if, from what I heard from the table, is essentially the intent of the way that this committee's been operating is to review all options on the table and work towards, a report that will eventually be submitted. Right now the dates that we are familiar with are 2030 and 2033.
Yeah.
Would it simplify it to just make a motion to reinforce or state that is our intent, that we go through this process considering all 4 options?
And no accelerated jurisdiction, correct? No discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any intent of accelerated jurisdiction, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, then we're good with
It
that.
seems arbitrary, Madam Chairman, to say accelerating. There could be a valid reason for doing that. I don't know.
Well, I guess what we could take this as is that our goal is not to attempt to accelerate,
That's different.
but we all understand that as we go through the process and as we build the report, that if it's determined that the report is ready, then we make a decision then, depending on what day and year it is. I mean, that is what could happen, and even the Devens residents could, say, we've covered as much as can be covered, and let's go send it. We're talking 3 years from now, it could happen. So, I think the intent of this committee is to not rush anything.
The intent is to follow the timeline presented by 498 and, consider all options through this process. Because no matter what you actually vote, no matter how, members could change, a year from now, even the same body could decide to vote to accelerate for some reason. That's not the intent that I have. It's not the intent that this committee is voicing right now. But I mean, I think the intent all seems to be, that we don't intend to accelerate it, and that we are looking to take all options into consideration.
Agreed, and having said that, then the motion you can vote either way, yay or nay. If to the amended language, however you want to proceed.
Madam Chairman, I can't vote on something. I can't accelerate depreciation. It is too vague. You need to have. We're doing a disservice to Devens residents if we took a vote. So we're not going to accelerate accelerate the determination of permanent government. If they take that to mean it's open-ended and current status of Devens could continue indefinitely, because we're not going to accelerate that. That could be someone's interpretation. It's got to be. I think the language has to be plain language, and this is not.
I said, I'm just thinking.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking for a minute.
Okay, so
I don't know what I would be voting for, quite frankly.
I think so to get at it, the Devens residents, through John, are requesting that we don't actively engage in a conversation at this table to do anything sooner than what's required by Chapter 498, essentially.
And all 4 options.
And to consider, and that the conversations continue to be around consideration of all 4 options. That's what you're saying, yes?
But I guess I'm still confused, Madam Chair, if I may. What date is that? Is that 2030, or is that, are you saying
You said 2030.
is it 2033? Are we not to submit a report on or before 2033?
No later than 2033.
So again, if this committee is ready to make a report, say in 2032, it needs to sit on it until on or before 2033?
on or before July 1st, 2033, the commission, the boards, the selectmen, and the tours, yada, 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 will submit the study and a joint report to the governor. So we can do it before.
Yeah.
That goes back to my statement, if in 2029, and I'm just using arbitrary dates, we've had the consultant, we've written the report, and everybody looks at this thing and says, geez, there's really nothing left we can add. Let's get it out the door. Then we'll vote on it at the time. But I think that for now, I think that, you brought up a good point. We just reiterate that we're going to, continue just moving forward, gathering the information to build the report to send to the state, to include all the options that have been previously stated.
The concern is that, Madam Chair, if I may, is that the accelerated decision for jurisdiction. That's the concern. That, okay, they're going to decide in 2029 that, right, it should adhere to the 2033 in Chapter 498, right? If you want to give it to the legislature early, right? Does that make sense?
No.
Give us an example, John, of how we would accelerate.
The issue is that the residents are concerned that the decision, there will be a petition to accelerate a decision on jurisdiction. That's it. We should hear. That's it. That's the issue.
This committee cannot petition the Senate for early jurisdiction unless all the parties agree.
And all we're saying,
and we're not looking to do that.
I just understand that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do we? I can't remember, but I feel like do we have an official on the website? Do we have our initial charge or?
We have 498.
Well, I mean,
we have 498.
like when we started this, I thought we put together at least a document that said this is our charge. This is what we're basically doing. Whether you call it a mission statement, I
it's
don't
right
recall.
here. The Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee was officially formed on September 5th, 2019. As established, the committee includes 3 representatives from the towns of Air, Harvard, and Shirley, Mass Development, the Devens Enterprise Commission, and Devens. The charges of the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee shall be to develop a process for a comprehensive and fact-based analysis and planning effort with the assistance of a professional consultants, whereby a study and joint report consistent with Section 23 of Chapter 498 of the Acts of 1993 shall be prepared concerning the permanent government structure for the ongoing operation and administration of the jurisdiction known as the Devens Regional Enterprise Zone. Devens. That's our charge.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I've been a little in and out of the discussion, but I think I've, picked up most of what has been discussed. I agree with Mr. Pomfriand's assessment. The Devens Enterprise Commission has no focus on one scenario or another. That's not our charge. Our charge is in line with the DGFC's mission. I think there's consensus in the room that nobody is talking on this committee about a single option. All options are still on the table, so that should not be an issue. And in terms of accelerated jurisdiction, as Mr. Pomfriand mentioned, that would require an act of the legislature. That is not our charge. And I think if there's consensus that that's not our charge, and we are not focusing on one option, I think if we just make a motion to say that, and hopefully that could clarify things instead of trying to wordsmith John's motion into something that everybody agrees on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What would the motion be then, Neil?
Motion that this committee, there's consensus among the committee that we are not in favor of one option or another. All options are on the table as outlined in our charter, and that accelerated jurisdiction is not an issue for our discussion at this time.
Seconded.
Second.
All right. So it's on the table.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just go back one more time to it's hard to accelerate it when it's on or before. So how do you accelerate before, kind of thing? I mean, that's the question that I think that we're struggling with.
Yes.
If it is on or before,
Right.
then there is no such thing as accelerating because it could be done at any time. I wouldn't want our committee's hands tied to say, yeah, we're all ready to go. And it seems as if
I think, and we can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we're trying to say is we're not going to plan on submitting it in a hurry.
No.
No.
I think the
I
issue
think we're not.
is accelerating jurisdiction, not the delivery of the study. Neil's motion covers that. We're okay with that. Neil, could you repeat that motion?
Deliberations are ongoing. The decision for jurisdiction, I think, is what, John, you're referring to, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And without mass development at the table, it's not even,
You're my deaf ear.
can't be done anyway.
All right, so we had the motion, it's been seconded. This is our third try.
I still have a question. What does acceleration mean? Like that,
On jurisdiction.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so maybe to just clarify,
Decision.
the issue, and
we won't make a decision prematurely? I mean,
Hang on,
let
let
me
me
just
finish.
clarify the issue, Victor, if I take an attempt to. We have all worked very well together, no question. And there is no question that the Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee, A+. You guys have hit the ground running from the beginning, some of us, catching up and so forth. And you have very strong opinions, rightfully so, as do other stakeholders on what should happen. I get when the public process, right, for some, perception is reality. Doesn't mean it's true or right, but their perception. And it sounds like residents on Devens are perceiving that recent public comments, which everybody has a right to, made at the Harvard Devens meeting, nothing wrong, but when questions are made that the issue of status quo and town are off the table, and people see that, and there's talk about petitioning to change the dates as a strategy to get mass development to the table, you begin to connect those dots to some folks that the perception is that Harvard has already made up its mind, and not only has it already made up its mind, but wants to accelerate to push that forward. And that the focus of Harvard, which is your prerogative, ours is different, to look at a collaborative approach. There's no right or wrong, but the perception, I think, for many is that Harvard has made up its mind on disposition. And we're going to go full steam ahead on disposition, and let's try to accelerate that. That's the perception. That's not wrong, meaning that's not a right or wrong thing, but I think those type of things have transmitted to John's constituency, which is important, which has raised flags saying, oh, there's a key stakeholder, key town that's already made up its mind on jurisdiction, where we haven't done the process, the third party professional independent process. And not only that, they want to try to accelerate the timeline. And I think that's created a lot of angst and confusion. That I could be wrong, but I'm just, as a person seeing what has happened, I think that's what the perception is. Nobody did anything wrong, but they're speaking out like, let's not be focusing on just disposition, and let's not be focusing on trying to accelerate the clock.
I don't disagree,
Okay.
Robert, but I think clearly the Devens residents are focusing on what's going on in Harvard.
Yeah.
And they're coming to this committee for relief. And it's not the business of this committee to do that. Nor is it the business, if Devens residents, then John's committee seems to be really focused on creating a town there. And that's fine.
There's 4 options, and we're not.
That's one of the options.
We're not disputing your freedom to do what you want by any stretch of the imagination.
So maybe
Your point was well taken.
why not just, if we're going to take any kind of a motion, just to affirm that we'll follow Section 23 of Chapter 498.
I've lost track as to, the last motion we had was from Neil.
Yeah, Neil would, Madam Chair,
I
maybe
thought
and repeat it.
covered it, but that's for the rest, you all
It included
decided
Excel.
that covered it. Or we can just do a simple, I make a motion that the Devens Jurisdictional Framework Committee follow the charter of its charge. The last one that was seconded was Neil's motion.
I don't remember the specific wording that Neil said, but I would be in agreement.
I agree.
It doesn't necessarily have to be unanimous vote as well. I mean, we could take
Right,
the
it
vote,
just-
and there could be
that's
some
right.
people that either
You
choose
can
not to
say yea
vote.
or nay.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
I'd
maybe
like
have
to
him
be able
repeat
to
it.
vote in the positive though, because I do think we agree with the sentiment of what's being kind of at the heart of this. Harvard intends to participate on this framework committee by following the charter charge of the committee. And that is consistent with the chapter 498. The second you throw in accelerating, it kind of messes with the brains here because it's saying on or before. So that's where I think,
No,
I like Neil's motion.
I don't know if we can re-get it.
Neil, did you happen to write down that motion?
Neil, what's that motion again, please?
So I believe his motion was something
I
like.
did not write it down. I apologize.
Oh, just articulate it again, please.
Nor is it safe for me to do so as I'm driving.
No,
Neil, this is Dawn, if I may, I did jot something down, you can tell me if I'm close.
Okay.
Is that the consensus of committee is that we are not in favor of any one option and that accelerated jurisdiction is not an issue for us at this time.
That's a great summary. Thank you.
Well, not an issue.
Okay.
That's different, though. That's different than what he said.
No, he said at this time.
Thought he did.
Did
Yes.
I did say at this time,
he? Okay.
and a decision, maybe I can amend that to say a decision on accelerated jurisdiction decision.
Thank you for being described.
So the problem is that there's no motion that can be made that's permanent. Because 2 years from now, it could be a whole different motion that can change
Right.
stuff. You know, we can only make a motion that will cover a period of time until there are changes.
Except
So-
that a body should respect the motions made by the
Yes,
body.
you're right, but I mean, usually it's, a motion gets changed if there are significant changes. I mean, example, years ago with the transfer station, it was just gonna be, we're gonna table it. And I said, no, we'll table it unless certain things change that cause us to have to go back to this decision.
Yes. that's-
So I think that, I'm just gonna say that covers his, at this time.
Neil's? Yeah.
So, but again,
Would you mind reading
it
again?
should only come up if there's like something significant that drives a change.
Right, so the motion on the table is that the consensus of the committee is that we are not in favor of any one option and an accelerated jurisdiction decision is not an issue for us at this time.
Seconded. Is everyone good with this? Do we want to take a vote?
Move the question.
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Woo.
Thank you all.
All right.
Yeah, can you put
Just Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd just like to encourage Devens residents to come to our Harvard Devens meetings. And we do have,
Hold on, Neil started speaking before you
Oh, I'm
started
sorry.
speaking. Yes, Neil.
I'm sorry, just procedural wise, there was 3 motions, right? Do we have to act on the other motions?
no, they
No.
were amended.
No, because they kept getting
No?
amended.
Okay, it
It got a little messy
was
there, yeah.
amended, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
My bad, I just didn't want to leave John's original motion. I didn't want to leave John's original motion hanging.
So,
John, good luck explaining all this to your,
have them watch the video.
How much video? I'll take that charge.
So, all right, I know you're gonna leave, so, just letting you know, right now, July 8th is when we're scheduled to meet, and the matrix update would be education, police, and fire. All right, so I know you're gonna leave. Now, that's it for new business. Okay, I know we had somebody who wanted to talk about public comment, and I would tread lightly on this, Paul, because he wants to talk about jurisdiction.
It's surreal hearing people talk about something you might have said or written and not being able to comment on it. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
So there's handouts there of what he had sent to everybody, if everyone wants.
Yeah, and
So
I have ones that are.
So Paul, if you can, we got people that have got to go, so can you do the quick one?
I'll make time.
Okay.
Yeah, I have handouts that look.
Yeah, we
pretty
have the
old,
handouts, they're right
darker.
there.
So I sent out 2 handouts, both electronically and by paper. And if somebody could hand that to John Osborne.
Can you cover this for a second? I gotta take a break. Continue talking, Paul. I'll be back.
I have served on the Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee for nearly 8 years with Victor and other people. In fact, we've had a remarkably stable membership. And just so everybody knows, I think we have a vacancy right now, which we've had trouble filling. We'd love to have more representation from the good citizens of Harvard. Let me say, everything I say here is my personal opinions. Hopefully they've been informed by attending this meeting and the HDJC and everything else. While the HDJC and other people have seen previous versions of this timeline and my essay, they neither endorsed it nor whatever the opposite of endorsing is, said it was bad. I originally created the timeline 4 or 5 years ago, and I've updated it a couple of times, and I updated it just on Monday before sending it out. Let me talk about that first, because I think that's kind of new business, if you will. The point of the timeline was to take everything that I had learned by serving on this committee and my conversations with people like Representative Senna and Senator Eldridge and listening to all of you here, and try to synthesize everything I knew about what had to be done, what has been done, what we're in the process of doing, what remains to be done. And I broke it down into phases. I tried to then subdivide the phases into activities. I made major changes to the timeline Monday as I was doing this to what I call the broad consensus phase, based on the current direction of the DJFC here, and it's the way it appears to be operating. And I thought, why did I do this? It's like, well, you don't have a timeline. Some of you have probably worked on big, complicated projects, whether in government, industry, academia, whatever, but every single serious project I've ever worked on has had a timeline, deliverables, somebody in charge, committee meetings, goals, performance reviews periodically,
Isn't that what we've been doing?
I have not seen a timeline for this
Well, no, we
committee
haven't
ever.
come up with an actual timeline because we're with chapter 498, but are we not having these benchmarks and coming up with deliverables?
Madam Chairman, if I may I just say what I want to say and then you guys can discuss it?
Well, this is public comment, so
Yeah.
that's the way we do it, but okay.
So I would encourage this committee to create a timeline. It might not be mine. I don't claim any particular ownership or genius here. One thing I will say that a lot of that surprised me when I did this work was when I started to research how our report, as 498 calls it, would interact with the operation of the Great and General Court, i.e. the state legislature. Very briefly, the legislature operates on a 2-year cycle, right? They get elected every 2 years. All bills have to be refiled or filed again with each session. Nothing carries over. In theory, they're all filed at the beginning of the session. They're assigned to committees. The committees work the bills. There are frequently multiple versions of the same bill or the same similar bill in the House and in the Senate. And so the committees then try to reconcile those. They hold hearings. They come to some agreement or not. And then each chamber votes on its version of the bill, and of course they're reconciled. The reason I bring all this up is that it matters when the Chapter 498 report gets sent to the legislature. If hypothetically it finishes in, let's just say, with a few months left to go into legislative session, it's just going to sit there. It might as well sit there till January, till the next session begins, because nothing's going to happen. If you could get it to them in January of an odd year, then you're synced up with their sessions, and in my view, your chances of success are maximized then for getting the legislature to work on it, because you're falling within their normal cadence, their normal rhythm.
Right, I believe that has been mentioned.
And so I would encourage any timeline you make up to take that into account. And in fact, I've annotated this and called that out as to what those dates are. It's the first Wednesday of odd-numbered years when the legislature starts. But that actually makes it kind of difficult. In this version you're seeing here, there's like an 8-month pause because the work proceeds, and then we've got 8 months left in the session, which knowing how our legislature works, that probably is not enough time for them to take a late filed bill and deal with it. So again, just to repeat, I think you should make a timeline, you should measure yourselves against it, and you should work towards that aggressively. There's a lot of work to be done here. The point of the essay was to say, I think there's a certain amount of momentum, if you will, a certain amount of assumptions of how we do business, how we, the DJFC, does business. And I think every now and then it's good to just take a step back and say, are we using the right process? Is this an effective use of our time? Is this an efficient use of our time? Are we making sufficient progress to stay on the timeline that we've created? In fact, as I was reading this, I thought to myself, I don't really much like the process 498 lays out. And I think that perhaps some thought should be put into just saying, instead of using a 35-year-old process, maybe we should stop and think, well, how would we do this if we were inventing it today, knowing what's in front of us, knowing that we have now a substantial population on Devens, which was not accounted for in 498, right? As I say in the essay, it's quite possible. I'm sorry the Mass Development representative isn't present to hear this, that Mass Development could just say, the DJFC isn't part of 498. The residents aren't part of 498. When we come back in 2030, we're going to adhere strictly to 498. And I don't think the residents would like that. I'm not sure I would like that as a Harvard representative either. But that's within the rights of someone being lawyerly, let's just say, adhering to the fine print. And so, as I say here, I think that there's a place to say, how should this work so we can get the optimal outcome, not just for the citizens, residents, and voters in Harvard, Aaron, Shirley, and Devens, but for the Commonwealth, right? This whole thing was created, the DRES was created really for the benefit of the residents of the region and the state. And just very briefly, I'll say that the whole point of me writing this note about acceleration or changing the dates was to call what I consider Mass Development's bluff. They've said that several now past Devens VPs, or heads of mass development as well, have said, we will return in 2030. And they've stuck by that. Now, time will tell whether, the current administration is any different or not. But it just seemed to me that some thought was worth some thought, saying, can we force their hands? If they really mean that, the legislatures work for us, we vote for them, they ask me for money all the time, I give them money all the time. Having now heard a very sober and what I would considered and realistic explanation from a previous speaker, I too doubt that it would actually happen. And anytime you open any piece of legislation for anything, you run the risk of people saying, oh, let me jump in, I've got something I want to change, right? So you can kind of lose control of the process too. But sometimes just merely going through the act could wake people up and get their attention, right? I think one of the things I've done in my time in Harvard is to stand in front of town meeting and advocate at least 3 times for warrant articles that I cared about in one way, shape, or form. And I'm certainly expecting, if I live that long, to stand up in front of town meeting again in a few years and deal with this one. And my record is 2 out of 3. And the 3 is one that I tried to do on my own, which was a dumb thing to do, but that's for beer time. I pushed very hard at the beginning of this process to say that this committee should use principled negotiation and unanimity. It should stay as a team. It should act as one. Because that's where our power comes from. That's where our authority comes from. And that's the best possible approach to each town's portion of super town meeting. The best way to tube a town meeting on this subject would be to have a group of people stand up and say, we were part of the process, but we don't like how it turned out, and we're going to urge you to vote against it. But if all the actors at this table, all the parties at this table can honestly go into those town meetings, representatives in each of the 3, and say, we're all in agreement, this is it, this is what we want to do, then the chances, on my humble opinion, are excellent that our neighbors and voters and residents will approve that. But that's only going to happen if this committee can stay together and act as one and get there. And so finally, I guess I would just remind everyone that in principled negotiation, we talk about interests, not positions. And so when we put items on the table, please put your interests on the table. Sometimes you can't help but putting my position, but we're negotiating over interests. We're trying to create value. We're trying to help you get what you want out of it while you help us get what we want and need out of it. And the only way that happens is if we can all just be very honest and forthcoming about what our true interests are. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Paul.
And if anybody wants the Excel sheet or anything, let me know on the schedule.
All right. Any further comments?
One thing I forgot to mention. I would urge everybody to go read, either watch our tape, get our slides, look at what we said, because there's no better way to understand the feelings, not just of the committee and the committee members and people like myself, but the people in the audience as well. Or I guess the audio for the audience was subpar, but we'll do one again sometime.
All right. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Paul.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so, so our next meeting is scheduled for July 8th. So I realize that's around the 4th of July holiday. So about a month before it, I'm going to email everybody to confirm whether or not that date works. And if it doesn't, then we'll move it. But for right now, July 8th. Okay?
Yep.
All right. If there's nothing else,
Move to adjourn.
oh,
I was just going to joke that we make a non-binding motion to thank Logan in advance for some intricate meeting.
I want one complaint from anyone.
all right. So we had a motion to adjourn.
Just get the start time.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Any opposed? All right. Good night, everybody.